Coming to you from an undisclosed location somewhere on the windswept prairies of Oklahoma, I'm your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. This is the New Acceleration Radio, right here on KGRA. Folks, I have a very special guest. I'm giving him the entire hour. Ron Moorehead has been with me down in Peru. We spent a lot of quality time together, along with our mutual friend Joe Taylor, who's the curator of the museum in Texas. And Ron is a researcher. He's also an author. He's written 2 books, Sierra Sounds and Quantum Bigfoot. In some ways, he may be the go-to guy when it comes to these very elusive, enigmatic entities, creatures. And the reason why Ron went down to Peru, he was interested in that elongated skull and was wondering if this somehow tied back into his encounters with Bigfoot. So I'm going to go way back to the beginning. I know most of his story and some of it I don't. And what I don't, of course, Ron will fill in. But I want to get right into this because this is what's amazing. You were in a very remote, isolated area. Now, you could land a helicopter in the field, but because it was federal land, people were prohibited from doing that. So in order to get there, you had a horse, a pack mule, and you would basically pack in for 8 hours. Pick up the story from there, because that's where it immediately goes off the rails and gets really interesting.
This has been a hunting camp since 1958 by the Johnson brothers. And they've been hunting there every year. A very pristine area, 8 miles back into the wilderness of the Sierra Nevada mountains of California. And anyway, it was 1971. They went up there early, which they usually do, because it's just kind of a private camp. Nobody gets there. There's not like a lake there. It's 8,400 feet in elevation and very imposing area to get to. So one night they heard these horrific sounds out there, and originally they thought could this be a bear? Because they're hunters. That's what they do, is they hunt in this area. Anyway, they agreed that was not a bear. Something else is out there. It's making some really horrific sounds. So later, when it all stopped, they went out there and noticed these big 5-toed prints in the mud beside the stove that had been packed in by mules, reassembled. So that's how it began. They came out, told us the story. One of the guys went back up, and he wouldn't go back because of very, very religious. He just didn't know how it fit into the religious book.
Okay.
Giants are supposed to exist nowadays, but I got to tell you, everybody out there, giants do exist nowadays, and they're existing now, and they're multiplying. Anyway, I started going up in 71. I wasn't a hunter at the time, but I became a hunter just because that's what they did up there. And we started encountering these things that kept coming into our camp in the evening, and we started recording their sounds that they were making. And it was 1972 when we got a hold of Ivan Sanderson, and he wrote a letter to a guy named Peter Byrne out west to see if they wanted to investigate. They sent this reporter in, and he started trying to find who was hoaxing, who was trying to pull this off, because it's pretty incredible. The story was just really unique. We had no idea just how unique it was at the time. Anyway, we all started recording. He fostered the studies at the University of Wyoming, Al Berry, and they wrote a paper on it. Professor Kerlin did a study for a year long, and the sounds were inside, outside, above, below the human range, the average human range. And it wasn't until 2008 our cryptolinguist got a hold of these sounds. He retired from the Navy as a cryptolinguist, teaches 4 languages now in Missouri, Scott Nelson. And he listened to them. He came out and interviewed me and Al Berry and tried to get the context, got the original recording back and listened to them, and transcribed a language, a complex language within these sounds. Now, a lot of them are very aggressive sounds. When we first encountered these things, it was like chest beating, like you think it was a huge gorilla or something.
Wow.
But then as time went on, we realized they weren't going to come in and shelter us, and we wasn't going to shoot at them, I guess, they figured. So we got kind of interaction going with them. And it sounds pretty incredible, but it is incredible, actually, because I think maybe we're the only guys that's really ever had I don't say a conversation, but because we don't know what they were saying. We only know that they have a language, a complex language. And that's the ones we encountered in the Sierras. I got to tell you up front, I don't think all these are the same. They may not be of the same genome. Yeah, I think we have been visited, and as you know, we both gone in Peru together. We've seen artifacts of things that just was not totally human. We've seen issues down there with these rock formations that just defy our explanation.
Sure.
And so I have no doubt that aliens have been here. They come and go, and they could probably be here now. How many different types of genomes have been here and influenced the DNA of animals or of people, primates, or whatever is really unknown. But it's all kinds of weird things being seen nowadays all over the world, really. So that's what's taken me all over the world. I mentioned earlier about the sagittal crest, that elongated skulls in Peru. Well, Bigfoot's known up here. Most of them, anyway, that are seen have a sagittal crest. And so that's what got me into it. There's stories of the Incas warring with the Mayans and the Aztecs in the Central America. Then you got their stories warring with the giants in the north. And that takes us up into the Lovelock Caves, where the Paiutes have that story. You've been there with me,
sure.
Lovelock Caves. And I have no doubt that that's actually real. I got a picture that you'd love to see us on the skull that came out of that thing years ago. 40 years ago, a guy got a picture of it.
Really?
It's huge. And anyway, that's what got me into it. But we also found giant remains in the Sierra Nevadas, the Lovelock, not the Lovelock Caves, but the minaret skull. Dr. Benson went in there with a group of Boy Scouts. The donkey kicked up a skull that was huge. He sent it off to UCLA, and guess what?
It disappeared.
It's disappeared.
Of course it has.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
You have the Martindale mummies, which were found in Yosemite. 7-foot-tall female mummy, a whole baby. Her counterpart would have been 8 foot. So that's how it got started with me, and that's what has taken me this far. Trying to answer the enigmas associated with this being, whatever they are, is what my quest has been. And it's taken me all the way from thinking they were just an unusual ape running around the woods to quantum mechanics. And that is the rule that exists throughout the universe, quantum physics. And unfortunately, most of the science nowadays is based on classical science, Newtonian physics, which just doesn't go far enough. It doesn't answer all the questions. And neither does Darwinism. You think that Darwinism doesn't answer the questions of consciousness and how did we evolve a highway bomb?
Yeah, how does that work?
How does that work? Yeah. How did that evolve? It didn't. Something happened. Something happened to our DNA. And God created us. We're his people. And we have dominion on this earth. And I say that because a lot of people think, well, why don't these things come out? How come we can't find them? Well, they're not supposed to interact with us, I don't think. They are sentient. They are cognizant. I believe they are sapient, by the way. And that's kind of unique because anything that could talk, like we could talk, is sapient. Homo sapiens sapiens is what we're known as. Anyway, that's where it goes, and it's fun.
I remember you telling me when we were down in Peru, one of the encounters that you had. In other words, this is like one of the first times you guys were putting out trail cams and bait. You figured, well, this will be a piece of cake. We'll be able to photograph these things. Tell us what happened.
Well, they know what you're doing. They're smart.
They're really smart.
We underestimated what we was dealing with grossly back then. We set up camera traps. We didn't have a trail cam back then. This is in the 70s, by the way. But we'd set up a thread, try to trick our camera when they'd been coming in after the food we leave out. And they'd go a different way. And no matter what kind of trick we tried to pull on them, they seem to be ahead of it. And they're really very intuitive. And they are very conscious of human exploitation, I think. So why we were lucky enough to catch their vocalizations, and I say lucky, I'm not sure if it's luck or if it's just the way it's supposed to be, like I talk to you today.
Right.
But these things exist. I live in the Pacific Northwest now in Washington. This happened in California, but there's a group of people up here that have studies going on. Things. There's a lot of encounters up here in the Olympics where I live now. And I just spoke at a convention this last weekend. And a picture you had in your background of Patterson, I just was talking to Bob Gimlin. He's the one that was there with Roger Patterson. And I've known him since 1970 when he stopped by my house in California. He was on a bike sitting on a trail. And he thought he'd better talk to the guys that encounter these things, in case he encounters it, because we're on that trail just about, or not on the trail, but in that area. So anyway, it's been a fun thing to deal with. But it's also exciting, and where it goes back to, because the first thing I started doing, me and my buddy both up there, we tried to the Bible to find out where giants came from. Where did giants come from? Well, what I found was the Nephilim. So, you find that and you just go on. That attracts me to you and your subject because could we be on the trail of the Nephilim?
Yeah, I think we both are.
Something is unusual that's out there. And I mean, they are out there. They're being seen more and more often by more and more people. And it's just incredible. I write in my book, The Quantum Bigfoot, the different ideas that I have, what they could be, how they may have made it through the line of the flood, from Enoch's on and through Noah's flood from Ham and into Canaan, the land of Canaan, where the giants were. And all that it gives in my book. And it's just fascinating to see the different ways that could have happened. Also, you got Rebecca's womb, where the one was hairy, Esau and Jacob.
Exactly, right.
They have been from two different sperm. Well, what you find out is one out of every 400 identical twins are from two different fathers. I didn't know that. I researched that. So two different fathers can impregnate a woman. And I'm just saying that because the negative energy that's out there is trying its best to infiltrate the humans that God made, and that's us. I don't think that can happen unless we allow it. Because I think if we know who we are as God's chosen ones, we're in a good place.
Well, let me ask you this: when you guys were in the lean-to, this is like ground zero. So you're in this lean-to, which is like a makeshift hunting lodge, and you're up there. You guys are going to go out and you're loaded for bear. I mean, I get all that. All of a sudden, you start hearing some knocks on the trees. So what was your reaction? I mean, what did you? I mean, the mind is a funny thing, and you're. I mean, I've been in situations where you're up against the paranormal or something that you've got nothing in your grid to process the information. Right. So, what were you thinking when you started to hear the knocking on the trees?
Well, one of the guys couldn't hold his mouth closed from chattering. It was so scary.
Really?
Really, really horrible. They're so loud. They're right outside your shelter.
Wow.
The shelters are going to be anyway, but we're all in there. We're heavily armed. We got magnums, pistols and rifles and everything else up there because if they're going to come in after you, because there's stories about these things are cannibalistic,
right?
And a lot of Native American mythology that gets into that, and there's a core of truth to that, which I kind of believe there might be because of the stories I've heard throughout. We don't know if they're going to eat us, carry us away from sleeping bags, or what happened. We don't know. So we're there ready to shoot our way if we have to. We'd all be deaf now if we had to because it was a small shelter.
Right.
They didn't crash in after us. I'm sure they could have. I don't know if those guns would have done us any good. We had them anyway. So it's a little frightening to start with, but then after that, you realize they didn't come in. They didn't eat us. We made it out. We're going to go back. Let's go back and take some more tape recorders and see what we can do. So that's kind of how it started.
So when you approached a reporter, and this guy was a total skeptic. He figured that he came up to the camp, according to our conversations, he was going to debunk the whole thing. Tell us what happened when he got to the camp.
Well, he was. We didn't know it. We thought he was our friend. He was out. He became my friend later on, but at the time. He was going through our backpacks when he was out walking. He was looking for wires. He's looking for which one of the guys could do this that maybe isn't here now. But who's fooling who? Because he couldn't find any signs other than the big, huge tracks that left and the recordings that we were making. So that's the only evidence he could find of anybody around. There wasn't anybody else around. It's really a remote area. So he remained a skeptic for a long time, trying to figure out who was doing this to us. Finally, he realized, so he passed away in 2012, Al Berry, and he became a good friend of mine. We started talking about this subject in conferences and places, playing our sounds. without him, I wouldn't be doing this today because he really promoted me writing my book and me doing what I'm doing now. And I'm glad he did because it's been a real interesting chapter of my life. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. What was his reaction when he realized that no one was, pulling his leg, as it were?
Well, his reaction was, could this be real? But he wanted to his dying day, I think, to find somebody that could have been hoaxing that because he thought it'd make a better story if he could figure out how they did it. If you're 8 miles back in there, there's no signs of anybody else, and they don't leave anything but their big tracks. And so he's kind of hoping that in the back of his mind that somebody would come forward and say, hey, I was fooling you guys. But that couldn't happen because nobody was fooling us. And we know each other. We're all Christian guys. We all went to church. We realized, there's something going on here that's very, very unusual. But we kept it kind of to ourselves for a while. He's the one that came out. He was on this In Search Of program and several different little series years ago to reveal this because he kind of had the evidence that supports that these things exist. And, you can see the film, the Patterson film taken at Bluff Creek in 1967. You couple that with the sounds that we recorded, the vocalizations that establish that these things have a hyoid bone, which, again, is unique to humans.
Right.
So what DNA has been done, the mitochondrial DNA, the female maternal side, is showing human, mostly human. And you put that, they cannot find the nuclear DNA, which would determine the male counterpart. That brings us right into celestial intervention into the genome of those incredible primates.
And it's interesting, so far with the elongated skulls, we have not been able to find nuclear DNA. We've only been able to get mitochondrial DNA, the female side of the equation. So we have no idea what these elongated skulls that are in Peru with, sagittal crest like you're talking about, we don't know the origin of them. We have our hypothesis is that these are Nephilim, but we really don't know. Ron, tell me about the time. I know you've caught glimpses of them, but your daughter, for lack of a better way of saying it, she saw the whole thing, the full Monty, as it were. Tell us about that.
Well, we went up there, just her and I, and we hiked there, actually. So we were sitting there eating at the stove. Really simple, sitting there, and we had our backs turned to the forest over this way behind us, obviously. And she got up to get a paper towel or something, and she looked back, and here's this thing sitting there about 70 feet away, measured the next morning. And she got a full glimpse of it. No neck, it turned, and it just stood there and looked at her, a male. She said she thought at first it just looked like a tall, black basketball player, for a better term.
Wow.
And it turned, except it was broad shoulders. She said, no, it turned, its neck, it's like they don't have a neck. They do have a neck, but when they turn, their whole body turns. And that's what it did. It went in behind into the forest. But she's had other things happen to her, too. She's got glimpses of them, or views of them 3 different times, plus other things, too, mysterious things. We've all had these mysterious things happen, and again, that what took me into quantum physics, because that answers quantum physics if you can get your head around it, which,
right.
By the way, you can't.
Yeah, I get it, right.
Yeah, tell me how far it is in the universe. Somebody tell me that. If everything's measurable, like Newtonian physics says, no. Classical science is what I've been dealing with all these years, because I speak with scientists who are trying to put this into the Gigantopithecus blacki, which was found in Asia, and they think it went extinct. They're trying to say, well, it didn't go extinct. It came across the land bridge. It's been here. It's inbred with the Native Americans. That brings me to another point about them not being the thing. I think over the eons that they have been diluted down, some of them, into being more human-like than others. Because if they have 23 chromosomes, which are the pair, instead of 24 like a normal primate, say normal, we're primates, but we have 23 pairs of chromosomes that allows us to breed with each other. If these things are interbreeding with the indigenous people, then that can give them the human side coming more and more into focus, in my opinion.
Okay, then that's very interesting. Let me ask you something. We covered this in our Watcher series. I forget which number it was, but and you told us on the record, and it was really an exclusive. You had never come on the record and told anybody else about what you discovered. You discovered some very, very large footprints. Tell us about that.
Well, for years I wouldn't even talk about how big they got.
Right.
So the average one around our camp was 19 to 20 inches, something like that. We did find a little 9-inch track with an 18-inch track in the snow there once.
Wow.
But away from camp, up on the ridge, we ran across these tracks of 25 and a half inches long, 13 feet between them. LA, my gosh, that thing has to be 15 feet tall.
Yeah.
How does it stay hidden? How does it stay out of sight? How does it do this? That was amazing to find that. We found 4 tracks from over these rockways into just oblivion and couldn't find it anymore. But 4 different tracks, 13 feet apart, 25 and a half inches long.
That's a really big fella. There was a woman that emailed me a while back, and she talked about, first of all, the backstory is she lived right next to Canadian wilderness federal land. So, the house was like right next door to wilderness country. No farms, nothing. But about a mile away from her, across this field, marshland, whatever, her neighbor was there. And so it was a beautiful spring morning, late spring morning, and she goes out and just kind of, enjoying the day. And she looks around, and across the field, her neighbor is hanging wash on a line, and she sees it. So between her and the neighbor, about 50 yards in front of her, a Bigfoot materialized behind a bush. She watched it come in. She was like dumbstruck. How is this possible? She watched it come in. It looked at the woman across the field hanging the wash for maybe 2 to 3 minutes, whatever, and then it dematerialized again. Have you heard anything like that, and what are your thoughts?
Yes, I have. I heard it several times over the years. So it used to be years ago, I just took those off my table,
Right. I'm not talking about that, right?
I started hearing from very credible people that they saw the thing vanish, it pixelized like in the Predator.
Yeah, that's Terminator. The one. Yeah, Terminator, Predator, right.
And anyway, there's a law in quantum physics that will allow that. We are vibration. We are energy at the very most minute subatomic level. We are just energy, all of us, everything. So if you can manipulate that energy to go out of our light frequency, which is very, very limited, what we see is only because of light. God is light, by the way. We only see in our 3-dimensional paradigm, but there's more dimensions. According to quantum physics, there's at least 11, maybe more. They don't know. Probably innumerable amount. If something can manipulate energy, and I believe these things, in fact, I think just about anything from the cosmos can probably do that, or they wouldn't even be able to travel here and back. But energy can go faster than the speed of light. There's one for you. Einstein said it can go faster than the speed of light, but no, he's wrong. Your thoughts can go faster than the speed of light. If you get into the electrons and photons in the smallest part of the cell, that's how telepathy works. That's how we are made. And God created everything. Is that correct?
Yeah, of course.
So if we're made in His image, we're made to be creators. And I think our words create. So I think we've got to watch what we say. And say something nice, don't say anything at all.
Bingo.
Very generally. But, it's just that if you get into how things really work in the quantum field, you get out of your fixed paradigm you've been taught since you were in grammar school about classical science, how everything has to be that way, you'll find out that that's how the universe works. And that's Einstein, Bohr, Tesla, all these guys were into this over 100 years ago. But that science has kind of gotten put in the back burner because classical science don't even want to get their head into it. They can't explain it, but it's there. And if you get a quantum physics 101 or something like that, and just start looking into it, it's not that hard. You can't totally understand it, but at least you understand that there's more going on that meets the eye.
And I would agree with that. And I think what quantum physics does is acknowledge the supernatural worldview. What I mean by that, to us it's supernatural. To those living in that dimension, it's natural. Which is why when angels come here and they manipulate space, time, matter, and energy, they do it because it's natural for them. To us, it becomes miraculous. But getting back to the woman who had the sighting, I mean, she was completely blown away by what she had seen. And, you know, she called me and gave me her testimony, which was incredible. I got to take a hard break here. We're at the bottom of the hour. But before I do, let me just read a testimony from our sponsor. And hang on there, Ron. I'll get back to you in just a second. Hello, LA. I wanted to send you this review regarding Jingos and how well it really works. I rent a room out of my home, and this current roommate works for a major shipping company driving long haul. He came home with black grease on his work shoes, and with having white carpets, you can only imagine. He tried to even spot clean it, with the pictures will clearly show it didn't come up. I ordered a small spray bottle to try out Jingos, and wow, it really does work and does what it claims to do. Please take a look at my pictures of proof. Thank you for sharing with us this amazing product, and that's from Leslie. Folks, www.buyjingos.com, buyjingos.com. This stuff really works. Another testimony. If you've got a testimony for it, please shoot me an email at la@lamarzulli.net. Hang right here. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Ray Sobbs here for SaucerLosAngeles.com, and I hope most of you by now have had the chance to go by and check out the Saucer clothing line, but if you haven't, go to SaucerLosAngeles.com. They've got clothes for men and women of all ages, even babies. All logos are embroidered, and everything is quality made right here in the USA. Go to SaucerLosAngeles.com now to find clothes that can elevate your state of mind because they believe in quality, durability, and they believe in style at SaucerLosAngeles.com.
By Jingos, it's amazingly fresh and clean out here in beautiful New Zealand. G'day America, I'm Tarby, and I want to tell you about my new ultimate stain and odour remover, Jingos. My Jingos gunk gobblers will tackle stubborn organic stains and eliminate nasty stinking odours at the same time. Jingos effectively removes those little accidents like wine, coffee, dirt, blood, grass, even pet stains, and odours like fish, garlic, even skunk. Jingos is environmentally friendly, safe for use on fabrics, carpet, upholstery, and it works great as a laundry pre-soak on the worst pet or people accidents. Come on, America, what are you waiting for? Just go online and order your Jingos for $12.95 and get a 4-ounce travel pack free. Crikey, pay $19.95 and I'll double your order. That's 2 large Jingos and 2 travel packs for just $19.95. Blasted seagulls, where's my Jingos?
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes 2. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Your alternative talk radio contact, The Planet, KGRAradio.com.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We've had some technical difficulties with the lighting, and I apologize for that. Also, some of the sound has been garbled a little bit. Welcome to Skype, but we're doing our best that we can, and we have very slow internet connection on the windswept plains of Oklahoma, so I apologize for that. But our guest for the entire hour has been Ron Moorehead. He is the author of 2 books, Sierra Sounds, and it's a fascinating book. I have read that one. Quantum Bigfoot, I have not been able to read it yet. The copy that you sent me, by the way, Ron, burned in the fire. So, But I want to address something. Behind me, you see the controversial Patterson, Gimli-Patterson Bigfoot. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know you had contact with Mr. Gimli. Is that correct?
Yes, I've known Bob since 1978. Yeah, the film has been studied probably second only to the Kennedy assassination. I mean, it's that the Russians, 100%, it's a real Bigfoot. Our forensic studies here show it's 100% a real Bigfoot. The muscle, when you blow that up, you put the filters and all that stuff, you see the muscles moving, you see everything. It's not a man in a monkey suit.
No, I agree.
And why would they put breasts on it anyway? And you can see that very obviously. So they were very fortunate to have got up on it like that and got that picture. Roger Patterson, as you know, passed away, but Bob is still with us. I just talked to him just a couple of days ago, actually.
Wow.
I was at the Feather Wing this last weekend, and he's a friend of mine. And I trust him pretty much. He's a cowboy. He's got no reason to do it.
Yeah, and same thing with Patterson. Patterson went to his grave, the last minute, well, it's all a hoax. No, he went to his grave. He knew what he saw. And this is what drives me nuts about this. It doesn't matter how much evidence we have, pointing at that. You can have, 25.5-inch footprints, and you can have the Gimli-Patterson film, and you've got eyewitness after eyewitness after eyewitness, and that the scientific community goes, no, you really didn't see that, and the skeptic won't believe until, of course, we bring in a body. And I don't think that's going to happen because they're way too smart for that. Your thoughts?
Well, then you throw the language into it, and that creates another.
Exactly.
Well, come on. It's hard enough to believe they could be out there, much less can they talk. Well, these things have been known since 1924 when Albert Austin was supposedly kidnapped by a male and taken to a place in Canada and was held there for 6 days. And his report was that they were chattering amongst themselves, chattering rapidly. That's what our sounds are.
That's exactly what they are. They're incredible.
John Green wrote about that in his book, The Apes Among Us. And anyway, I researched that thoroughly up there with my plane, flew into that canyon up there into Toba Inlet and did all that. Then you've got the Fred Beck story, who is Mount St. Helens, who supposedly shot one, but they never could find the body. He went back into I think there were like 30 different deputies but he went to his grave saying they were paranormal. Why? I found out. Because 2 years prior to that, these things have been messing with this mining camp there by Mount St. Helens, the base called Lake Canyon. And these things have been messing with them for a couple of years. We've been seeing them off and on in their prints. Well, they followed their prints one time. Those prints just stopped. Okay?
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
What happened? But then this happened to me. My daughter saw one morning. We found his trackway, and we followed it, and the tracks just stopped. This was in 2009, and that just all of a sudden, okay, what's going on? I look in the trees. Could have jumped to a tree? No, the tree's too small to hold something that heavy. It was making prints down the ground where we couldn't even make an indent. This thing was massive, and I looked for a rock. Could have jumped to a rock. Could have jumped over in the brush. What happened? Couldn't find prints anywhere, and that brought it to my light. Well, these people aren't all crazy.
Right.
Stuff is happening, and how does it happen? It happens because of energy change. Somehow they can change their energy and manipulate it. If you can find the frequency of anything, you can change matter. And I believe that's the rule, the God's rule that Jesus was using for his miracles. Because it's not miracles, it's just understanding quantum physics and not how to work them. And that's what he tried to tell us to do. But people say, in the name of Jesus, all my life I've been raised in church, and they say, in the name of Jesus, heal, whatever. Nothing happens. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. What's it really mean in the name of Jesus? It means following his word, what he's telling you to do, following the core of what his teachings was. If you get into the core of his teaching, then you can say in the name of Jesus because you're staying through that same core belief. And I think that's so important. If you can do that, you'll get results. Because we have to get the heart brain coherence, going with the right vibration, get in the feeling of it all, and you can make things happen.
Yeah, I have a slightly different take on that. I'm not going to get into that right now, but I would respectfully differ with you a little bit about that. But I mean, that's a 3-hour conversation, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now. So let me move on. There was an incident that happened over the weekend, which I called you about because having followed your work and studying Bigfoot ever since I was a kid, kind of like you, we're kind of close to the same age. I just went when we were on this trail. And let me just tell the story, and then I'll get your feedback on it. So we're in an undisclosed location. We're filming, and we're in this one area. We're looking for an ancient chamber, which is thousands of years old, and we eventually found the chamber. But we're in this woodland, which is at least, I don't know, maybe well over 100 acres. And there's a river right next to it. There's a lot of bottom land, a lot of soggy bottom land, like perfect habitat. We saw fresh evidence of beaver dams. Beaver was gnawing through a tree. All that was, we uncovered. So we're on these paths, and we're trying to find the chamber. We finally come on some signage in the middle of nowhere in the woods. And this was a very interesting site. It had rock walls that went on for a half a mile dead straight. We tried to pick up one of the granite boulders. 3 guys, we could kind of move it, but there's no way we could pick it up. It was only this big, maybe like about 2 feet, round, something like that. And but there were much, much larger slabs and stones in these walls. And there was it wasn't agriculture. It wasn't to herd, a corral for goats or cows. It was just incredibly random, really strange. And the signage even talked about, well, we're not sure who built these and why. So we're walking along this one path, right? And all of a sudden, we see a stack of stones. And I kind of look at that and I'm going, well, that's kind of interesting. But, Boy Scouts could do that, so I let it go. So we walk a little further, and I see something, and I go, okay, everybody stop, because I'm leading the group. And across the path is about a 5-inch sapling. And it's not broken, it's bent. And I look over at the bend in the tree, and the bend in the tree is about 3 feet off the ground. And the tree, remember, it's a 5-inch sapling, and the tree has been twisted. You can see all the fibers of the tree. Someone took the tree and went like that and twisted it. And we all know that human beings can't do that. In fact, 2 or 3, we tried to do that. It was just a joke. Just absolute joke. We couldn't move it one way or the other. So I called you that night and I said, Ron, this is what we discovered. What did you tell me?
I forgot what I told you. We had the same thing up there. We had actually a branch that big around, twisted off at the spring, laid up on top of our shelter, and it was green. We like this. They put it there because we re-roofed the shelter. So they have incredible strength, but they also have inhuman strength. I mean, these things. I agree.
Yeah.
They can do that stuff. So. What did I tell you? I forgot now.
Well, no, you basically just said that it was a Bigfoot. That the sighting that we saw, this was evidence of Sasquatch in the area. I got to tell you, the whole place, it was like, and LA, you've got a vivid imagination. Okay, I get that, right? But the entire place was like going back in time in a way. It was weird. It was really. We spent 3 hours wandering around in this forest before we found the chamber. In fact, we went by it almost twice. We kind of got close to it and then, well, it can't be here. And we would turn around and go back. And it was really odd, very, very strange. And then, of course, when we found this thing, my wife, Peggy, goes, oh, great, Bigfoot. It was just like the last thing she wanted to hear. But there was, down by the river, there was just this, bottomland, very marshy, lots of ferns. In my opinion, from what I know about it, It'd be a great habitat. It could hide in there very, very easily. But the fact that the 5-inch sapling was bent at the 3 foot above the ground and then twisted. I mean, it wasn't like hacked. It wasn't broken. It was twisted. It was broken and then twisted. And I was blown away by what I saw.
I've also saw them weave things, weave limbs. I've seen this over in Russia, Siberia, actually, where I was over there with the Dr. Benedico, and they had it's kind of like military took us there, but it was just an unusual formation that something had weaved these things together, which was inhuman the way it was done. So
right.
Some very strange anomalies are associated with these beings, and they do it with their strength, they do it with their something else.
Well, we're in Oklahoma, and there's a gentleman that actually gave me a picture through a friend of his sighting, and it's just a great photo. He was a conservationist, game warden, whatever. I'm not sure his exact title, but he's got a photo of this thing, and it's like it sort of rivals the Gimli photo. I mean, it's like the real deal, in my opinion. And he had encounters with this thing, and so he wants to take me back there, but he hasn't called me back, and I'm very eager to go back. And
I'll be back
see
there.
what he's got.
I'll be there speaking in Novi on October 6th and 7th, something like that.
Okay.
If we work out something, maybe I can I've made my reservation yet. So.
I think that would be fantastic. Let's see if we can hook up. It'd be great to spend.
While I'm there, I mean, people think, no, it's so out here. No, these things are being reported everywhere.
Everywhere.
Now. They are all multiplying, and you got to wonder what the reason for them is, what's going on. I think we're going to get inundated here one of these days with UFOs. We're going to see aliens. They're going to show themselves more, and I think our media is indoctrinating them.
It is
to accept it.
I know.
So
yeah. Well, let me break in on you here real quick, because oftentimes with reporting of UFO sightings, what we see is Bigfoot is reported. In other words, people will see a UFO, and along with that, they'll have a sighting of Bigfoot in the same exact area by multiple witnesses. So they seem to be in tandem with one another. And of course, I believe this is all sourced from the dark side. You talked to me once about watching these things run and how fast they were. Tell me about that.
Human fast. You can't imagine anybody running that fast. It's like a train going by you. They're so fast. You think something that big wouldn't be so agile, but they're stealthy, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're everything that really we aren't. They could eat us up. They could kill. They could take over if they were commanded to do so or had in them. But I don't think they're all bad. I think some are possibly on the good side, not the bad side.
I hope so.
Well, I the ones we've encountered could have had us any time. So
I know. That's unbelievable.
But we also have guardian angels, like that. So I tell people, just keep your guard up, because you don't know what you're dealing with out there.
Right.
Some bad. There's some that are on the Solomon Islands. They say they're cannibalistic, or used to be. The Paiutes had the cannibalistic story. They were eating them. That's why they got in a war with them. You get all these stories about that going on. So you only hear about the ones that come. The people that like some of their family didn't purpose at all. Well, the ones that didn't come back, well, they got to say. They might have got ate up.
There was a story that was in the news. I actually blogged about it. Wasn't that long ago, and it talked about, I think the boy was either 2 or 3. So let's say 3 years old. He goes missing in sub-freezing temperatures, or right around freezing temperatures. He's gone for like 3 days, and when questioned by the park rangers and the authorities, essentially, remember, it's the 3-year-old with a very limited vocabulary. And they found him in a thicket, and he had some scratches on, but he was okay. And they said, well, how did you survive out here? And the boy said, a bear helped me.
Yeah, I remember that story.
Yeah, when you hear that, where do you go?
Was it a bear?
Obviously, it wasn't.
I never really know everything,
right.
But that's very questionable. I mean, what kind of bear saves a little kid? It's usually a snack for him,
Yeah.
So, but there's good stories like that turn out well, and that's a good thing. But there's also those stories you hear about in David Paulides' 411 series, where they find them in very unusual circumstances somewhere else. They don't know the answer. He does never come out and say Bigfoot related because you don't know that. He's a retired detective, and he just gives you the facts and only the facts. So it's interesting. But a lot of the missing people that have turned up missing, the hub of their missing people are right where our Sierra camp is.
Wow.
That's interesting. He's always cautioned me about going up there because we don't even know, even though we all came out of this okay, we don't know what they were. If they were just trying to get us to trust them or something like that and lead us into something bad. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know what they were saying. We only know it's gibberish. It is a language by the human definition language, which means there's a morphine stream of so many words that make up a sapient sentence, like we have. Like
sure.
Talking to you. I hope I'm talking like that now.
I hope so too. You are. You're doing great.
They do it very rapidly, and it's just a phenomenal thing. And what's going to come of it is our speculation.
You know, when I read David Paulides' book, and look, I've been studying all this stuff since I was like 16. Secrets of the Great Pyramids and I mean, all sorts of books on UFOs and shapeshifters and Carlos Castaneda. I mean, I've always been a student of the supernatural, of the arcane. When I got the Paulides book, and this is maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I could read about 1 or 2 stories, and then I put the book down. That's it. I don't want to hear this. That's enough. It was so upsetting to me. And I know that he stated on the record that he will no longer go into a national forest without an armed guard. And frankly, I don't blame him, because the stories are harrowing. Let me just give you one, sort of a composite. A woman is hanging wash on a line. We'll go back to that story, right? And she's got her little 4-year-old next to her, and she turns and hangs a sheet or a shirt, whatever, on the clothesline, looks back, the kid's gone. So she calls the authorities, they come out, they try to find the kid. It goes on for 3 days, sub-zero temperatures. They find the child in a higher elevation, like a mile or 2 away from the house. There's no way the kid could get there on his own without his shoes on. Yeah, that boy is one of the lucky ones. Oftentimes, the people are never, ever found. And I mean, there's just no trace. Your thoughts? There's
also people being abducted and being returned. I know some that claim that, and they just don't want to talk about it. It's too frightening to put their heads back into this. My thoughts are, well, I don't know what the thoughts are. I didn't investigate like David did, but I know David Paulides fairly well, and I trust his judgment. He just won't get into what did it, because he won't know what did it. He won't speculate. He just tells you the facts. Forestry Service, however, is covering a lot of this stuff up. They will give you what all is going on. Just like so much the government doesn't do. I think there's all kinds of issues that our government knows about that they're not revealing to us. So my thoughts on some of that stuff is just, it leaves you right where the book leaves you. You don't know what did it. You can only imagine, but I did talk to a guy just not too long ago that he's probably within 15 miles of where our Sierra camp is. He considered been there 15 years. Are you hearing me okay?
I'm hearing you're kind of fading out. State that last sentence again, okay?
He's been hunting there with an attorney friend of his for about 15 years.
Okay.
And he told me about witnessing, he's been having some encounters with Bigfoot. He got a hold of me because he'd seen something just too incredible. And we're getting that cloaking thing, which he didn't want to tell me that. He was afraid I'd hang up on him or something, because once you see one disappear and someone tells you that, it's,
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he also witnessed a UFO hovering in the daytime.
There you go.
And we have seen something, I call it a UFO because it's unidentified. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely controlled. A big blue ball, looked like the moon coming down behind the trees up there. And that's just one thing. We hear these incredible sounds, and you can't find the source of them. And this is in the daytime sometimes too. A big humming sound like a tuning fork, like that right above you, looking up. You don't see anything. But again, we only see within certain parameters. And that's unfortunate. We think we're seeing everything, but we're only seeing what the light allows us to see.
There was a story told to me by a gentleman, and you may know this story. If it sounds familiar, chime in. But these two firemen apparently were with this one particular Bigfoot researcher, and with this woman. And the woman apparently had a communication with these creatures. This is up in your neck of the woods. It was up in Oregon or Northern California, and so these firemen were joking around. They're gonna go up and see Bigfoot. Ha 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 ha. And they get up there, and they are terrified. They don't even see it, but they all of a sudden they're hit with this wave. And this guy told me they ran down the mountain crying like little school children. And then this gentleman and this woman went into where the Bigfoot were. And he told me it was like walking through molasses. He said it was like, and this is where it gets quantum Bigfoot. It was like time, everything stopped and they could barely move. But they finally got, to them, and then they had an encounter with them. I mean, they didn't sit down and have a meal or anything, but they were there. I find that just absolutely astounding, but we're running out of time. Wrap it up. Tell us where we can get the books. Fascinating stuff, and thanks for coming on the record.
Yeah, I will. By the way, that same instance happened to me, a wall that you can't get through. It's not fear, you just can't move anymore. It's like you're paralyzed.
Right.
There's somehow a way of doing that. Anyway, there's theories on that. My books are on my website, ronmoorhead10.com or bigfootsounds.com. It's to my website. The Quantum Bigfoot, which is this book right here. And I just happen to have these in my hand.
Hold it up. Hold it up again and just hold it there steady. Yeah, there you go. Very cool cover. Quantum Bigfoot.
This one is actually called Voices in the Wilderness.
Okay.
It's my chronicle. It comes with a CD too, which as I get to the context of sound, you can hear the sound. This one, I didn't mention this before, but it's bringing science and spirituality back together. I don't say together, I say back together, because that's where Einstein was and all this stuff. He couldn't get his head around quantum physics either. But it's in the scriptures how Jesus did his miracles. I think how it's supported by the laws of quantum physics. And it is how the universe works, how everything works.
Ron Moorehead, thanks so much for coming on the record. Always good to see you.
He says hello. I just talked to him a while ago. Actually, we just came back from an expedition in Death Valley.
Okay.
We're checking out some stuff down there.
Wow.
Anyway, it's a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on. I'm honored. Good to see you again. I'll give my best to Peggy.
Absolutely.
And I'll see you in October when I come back there.
That's all the time we have for today. Remember, folks, I'll see you on the air or in the air. Thanks for watching. From Ohio to the Gulf of Mexico, a mysterious group of people who are called the Mound Builders constructed monuments like we see in Cahokia, Poverty Point, or perhaps the most enigmatic of them all, the Circle Mound and the Octagon Mound, right here in Newark, Ohio. Join us as we explore the mysteries of the ancient mound builders.
We're in Moundsville, West Virginia, at the Grave Creek Mound, and we're in the museum right now, ready to exit and see the burial mound. We just inquired with the resident archaeologist about the giant skeletons, the Grave Creek stone, where he said that there was no record of it. The stone is no longer displayed at the museum. And inquiring about the giant skeletons, he said that there was no record of it, there was no photographic evidence of it, and he really had no knowledge of it ever existing. Just before going out, we find a lithograph on this wall showing the giant skeleton of the once museum that was cut into the mound, displaying the giant skeleton.
Fire!